I watched her sleep until the storm outside finally softened to a nervous drizzle. The room felt too still, too controlled, like the world was holding its breath. Even in sleep, Lina's fingers twitched, curling into the blanket as if she expected it to be pulled away from her at any second. When the first weak threads of morning light crept in, she shifted, eyes fluttering open. For a moment, she looked peaceful, almost like the girl I used to know. Then reality caught up with her. Her expression tensed. She sat up slowly, and her first instinct wasn't to look at me. It was to look at the door. That tiny gesture punched a cold dent in my gut. "You didn't sleep," she murmured, her voice rough from the night. "You didn't give me much reason to," I replied. It came out calmer than I felt. A sad, apologetic breath slipped from her lips. "I didn't mean to drag you into anything." "Then tell me what's going on." She froze. Her eyes darted toward the window as if expecting a face to appear behind the glass. Only then did she answer, "I can't, Lena, not yet." Her voice snapped sharper than I expected, but broke right after. "If I tell you now, you'll try to fix it, or you'll run. And I can't. I can't handle either." I rubbed my temples, a dozen questions crowding my mind. "You're saying someone's after you. Why? What did you do?" Her jaw clenched. For a heartbeat, she wasn't fragile. She looked dangerous, haunted, and then she shut down again, her gaze falling to her hands. "I need a few days." "Just a few," she whispered. "Then I'll explain everything." I wanted to refuse, but there was something in her voice, a fracture so thin, so real that I couldn't ignore. Before I could answer, she stood and crossed the room. She moved quietly, like she was afraid noise might attract something or someone. "I need to take a shower," she said, picking up the towel. The moment she closed the bathroom door, I exhaled for the first time in hours. I walked to the kitchen, trying to ground myself with routine, coffee, something simple, something normal. But normal had slipped out of reach the moment she stepped back into my life. The kettle began to boil, and that's when I noticed it, her phone, lying on the table, face down, almost like she wanted it hidden. A small, sick feeling crept up my throat. I shouldn't touch it. I knew I shouldn't, but something about the way she looked at the door, the way her voice caught on the word someone, wouldn't let me walk away. I reached out. The screen lit up, and a single notification glared back at me, carving a sharp chill through my spine. 21 missed calls from blocked number. Before I could process it, the phone vibrated again. "Blocked number is calling." The sound sliced through the kitchen. Too loud, too sudden, too close, and at that exact moment, the shower shut off. She must have heard it. Her voice came from the bathroom, trembling but sharp. "Mark, don't answer that." I stepped back from her phone like it was a burning coal. The ringing didn't stop, didn't even pause, just kept drilling into the silence until she opened the door, her hair dripping, her face pale in a way I'd never seen before. She stared at the phone in my hands. "Please," she whispered, "tell me you didn't answer." It stopped ringing. Silence. Her eyes filled with something deeper than fear, something closer to dread. "That wasn't a warning," she said quietly. "It means they found me." And just like that, the fragile safety of my apartment disappeared. To be continued. My name is not important anymore, but back then everyone simply called me Mark. I was 21, living in a small rented apartment on the edge of the city. My life was painfully ordinary: classes in the morning, part-time job in the evening, sleepless nights in between. Nothing special. Nothing dramatic. I thought I knew myself. I thought I knew what people were capable of. I thought I understood love, or at least the idea of it. But everything changed because of her. I met her when I wasn't looking for anything, when I didn't even want anything. And maybe that's why she slipped past every defense I had. And what happened after what she did, what she revealed, changed the way I looked at her, at myself, at everything. I didn't know it back then, but that was the beginning of the end of who I used to be. And the real story began long before I realized something was wrong. It all started the night I found her standing in the rain outside my building. At first, I didn't even recognize her. The street light above barely worked, flickering like it was trying to warn me about something. She was standing there, drenched, her hair sticking to her face, her hands shaking slightly. The moment she lifted her head, everything inside me froze. It was Lena. I hadn't seen her in over a year since she left without a word. Back then I thought I hated her for it, blamed her, tried to move on, and yet, seeing her like that, vulnerable, soaked, almost broken, it hit me in a way I wasn't ready for. She whispered my name, barely audible through the rain. Mark. I didn't know where else to go. And just like that, the walls I spent months rebuilding cracked. I opened the door for her inside. The silence felt heavier than the storm outside. She stood in my hallway, dripping water onto the floor, hugging herself, as if she had been running from something. Or someone. I didn't know which one scared me more. She finally looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something I had never seen before. Fear, real fear. Can I stay here tonight? She asked quietly. I should have said no. I should have asked questions. I should have protected myself, but instead, I nodded. While she changed into an old hoodie of mine, I tried to calm the storm in my head. Why now? Why come back? Why like this? But the moment she stepped out of the bathroom and sat on the edge of my bed, all my questions collapsed into one. What happened to her? She kept her gaze down, fingers trembling slightly. I sat across from her, waiting, not pushing. Eventually she exhaled, long and shaky. Mark, someone's looking for me. My stomach tightened. Who? She lifted her eyes to mine. And for the first time in my life, I saw the exact moment someone realizes they're trapped in something they can't escape. I can't tell you, she whispered. Not yet. I didn't know where else to go. A part of me wanted to scream at her for dragging me into whatever this was. Another part wanted to hold her and tell her everything would be fine. But the truth was, I didn't know if it would. I didn't know anything anymore. She lay down on the bed without saying another word. Her breathing slowly steadied, but mine didn't. I stayed sitting, watching her sleep like I was trying to memorize her face. The girl I once loved, the girl who vanished, the girl who came back terrified. And something inside me whispered the thought I didn't want to hear. Whatever she escaped from might be coming here next. That night, I didn't sleep, and I didn't yet know that letting her inside was the moment my life stopped belonging to me. To be continued. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, pale, frightened, and somehow still hiding something from me. The storm outside thrashed against the windows, and every rumble of thunder felt like someone knocking at the door. By the time morning crept in, I was already sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of everything, but nothing made sense. And then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Stop digging. She isn't yours to save. I froze. My first instinct was to call her, but her phone was still off and unreachable. The message wasn't a random threat. It was a warning, a reminder, and worst of all, a confirmation. Someone else was involved. Someone who knew what she was running from. Someone who was watching. I grabbed my jacket and went outside, determined to get answers from the only person who ever hinted at knowing something about her, her coworker, Mila. When I reached the cafe, Mila stiffened the moment she saw me. Her eyes darted left and right, like she was checking if someone followed me. Not here, she whispered. Come with me. She led me through the back door, into a narrow alley that smelled of rain and old bricks. What happened to her? I asked. She swallowed hard. She didn't tell you. Of course she didn't. She's scared you'll leave if you know. Know what? That she isn't just running from a past. She's running from someone who won't let her forget it. I felt my jaw tighten. Who? Mila looked at me like she wanted to answer, and then something behind me made her face drain of color. A car, black and silent, rolled slowly down the other end of the alley. Mila pushed a crumpled note into my hand. "Read it when you're alone. And don't come back here." Before I could say anything, she rushed inside and locked the door. I shoved the note into my pocket and walked away, keeping my head down, feeling the weight of unseen eyes on my back. At home, I unfolded the note. Her handwriting, shaky, desperate. "If you're reading this, they've found me again. Please, whatever happens, don't look for the truth. It's not safe for you." My chest tightened. Not safe for me. It was already too late. I grabbed my keys, the note, and the photo of us she left behind, and headed toward the last place I knew she might hide. But as I stepped outside, the same black car from the alley slowly passed by my house. And this time, the window rolled down just enough for me to see the cold, expressionless eyes watching me. Not a stranger, not someone distant, someone who knew exactly who I was. Someone who didn't need to speak to deliver a message. "You're next." The door slammed shut behind me as I hurried toward my car, my heartbeat racing, the city suddenly feeling too small, too claustrophobic for both me and the truth I was stumbling into. And somewhere out there, she was waiting, or hiding, or running again, but no matter what she wrote in that note, I wasn't stopping. I spent the next morning pretending everything was normal, even though inside I felt like I was walking around with a ticking bomb strapped to my chest. Sophia moved through the apartment quietly, almost too quietly, as if she didn't want to disturb the ground beneath her feet. Every few minutes she'd glance at me, not with anger anymore, but with something sharper, something watchful. She knew something had changed between us. She just didn't know how much. When she left for class, I finally exhaled. The door clicked shut, and the apartment fell into a heavy, breathless silence. I opened my laptop immediately and went straight to the folder where I had saved everything: the screenshots, the message archives, the cinched notes from her tablet. And again, I forced myself to read the messages from that night. Except this time, something new appeared, a draft. Something she had typed at 2:11 a.m. but never sent. "I don't know what to do. He isn't supposed to know any of this. I'm afraid he'll react badly. Maybe it's better if..." The message ended abruptly. No continuation. No delete confirmation. Nothing. It didn't make me feel better. It made everything worse. Because now I had questions I didn't even know how to form. Was she planning to leave me? Was she scared of me, or was she scared of whoever she had been messaging? I left the apartment shortly after, unable to stay inside any longer. The air felt lighter outside, but my thoughts stayed thick and suffocating. I walked without direction for nearly an hour until I found myself in a cafe, staring blankly at a cup of coffee I didn't remember ordering. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Stop digging." Those two words, and a cold shock through my chest. My fingers tightened around the phone. Another message came. "If she hasn't told you, there's a reason. Don't force it." I scanned the cafe instinctively. No one looked at me. No one watched. Still, the hair on the back of my neck lifted as if someone was breathing right behind me. Then a third message. "You think she betrayed you? You're wrong. The truth will ruin you both." My pulse hammered against my ribs. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too quiet. I stepped outside, my breath visible in the cold air, even though it wasn't that cold. A trick of panic. I typed back before I could stop myself. "Who are you?" For a long moment, nothing. Just the street noise, the distant engine sounds, the crosswalk signal blinking red. Then finally, "Someone trying to keep you alive." And before I could reply, the number went dead. Disconnected. I stood there on the sidewalk, feeling the world tilt slightly beneath my feet, because whoever sent those messages wasn't guessing. They knew exactly what I was doing. How long had they been watching me? How much had they seen? When I returned home, Sophia was already there. She was sitting on the couch, her hands clasped tightly between her knees, her eyes shadowed with something like dread. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. The floor felt unstable. like the world around me had become glass and every word might crack it. Yeah, I said. Though my voice didn't feel like mine, she hesitated, swallowed hard, and then whispered, "There's something you need to know. But I don't know where to start." And in that moment, I wasn't sure if I wanted the truth anymore. Because, whatever it was, whatever she had been hiding, it wasn't just about her. It was about us. And now, someone else was involved. I didn't sleep the night before everything unraveled. I lay awake on the living room couch, staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between the soft ticks of the thermostat and the distant hum of passing cars. It felt strange knowing that by the end of the next day, none of us, not me, not Claire, not Mason, would be able to pretend anymore. Whatever came after this wasn't going to be normal life. It would be something different, maybe cleaner, maybe darker, but definitely different. Morning arrived slowly, with a pale sheet of winter light bleeding through the blinds. I got up, made coffee I didn't drink, and sat at the table replaying everything in my head, the lies, the hidden meetings, the calls, the subtle shifts in Claire's behavior. The way Mason's name had slowly turned into a quiet thread I felt in my bones. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt anymore. I was empty in the way a person becomes after crossing a line they can never uncross. At 9:13 a.m., Mason texted me. "We need to talk." In person, Claire told me everything. I stared at the message for a long moment. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because it confirmed something I already suspected. Claire was losing control of her narrative. She had always been good at managing people, at bending truth, at softening sharp edges until they looked harmless. But she had pushed too far this time. Too many lies, too many small manipulations layered on top of each other. Even someone like Mason eventually saw through the fog. I wrote back, "Fine. Noon, my house." I spent the next 3 hours cleaning up the little things, putting away papers, closing laptop windows, making sure everything I had prepared was exactly where I needed it to be. Not revenge, not the dramatic kind, at least, but truth. Hard, undeniable truth. Screenshots, emails, audio clips, timestamps, access logs. Enough to burn down the version of the story Claire had been feeding both of us. At 11:58, I heard a car door slam outside. 2 of them. They didn't come separately. I opened the door before they could knock. Claire looked smaller than I expected, wrapped in a coat she hadn't bothered to button, eyes red beneath mascara smudges. Mason stood behind her, tense, jaw-locked, hands buried in his pockets. He didn't look angry. He looked betrayed. Not by me, but by the woman standing in front of him. We walked inside without speaking. The air in the living room felt thick, like it had been waiting for this moment long before any of us arrived. "Daniel," Claire started, voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed, "this has gotten out of hand." Stop," I said quietly. "She did." Mason slowly lowered himself into the armchair across from me, elbows on his knees. "Claire told me you were blackmailing her," he said. "That you were threatening to expose things that would ruin her job. That you were unstable." I almost laughed. Instead, I unlocked my phone, placed it on the table, and pushed it toward him. "Press play," I said. He did. Claire's voice filled the room, not angry, not sad, but calculated, cold, talking about how I was easy to manage, how she could get Mason to back off if things got too messy, how she knew exactly what to say to make me doubt myself. There were messages too, ones she told Mason I fabricated, where she bragged to her friend about playing both of us. I didn't watch their faces. I watched the window instead, where thin white sunlight cut across the hardwood floor. Eventually, Mason stopped the audio. For a moment, the room was silent, then he whispered, "Claire, what is this?" She didn't answer. She stared at me instead, eyes wide, as if seeing me clearly for the first time in months. "You set this up," she said. Not hysterical, not furious, just stand. "You planned all of this?" "No," I said. "You did. I just paid attention." Something inside her broke then, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like the sound of a thread snapping. She stepped back from the table, breathing fast, like the walls were closing in. "Daniel, please, we can fix this. We can talk privately," she whispered. Mason stood up. "Privately? After everything?" Claire reached for his arm. He pulled away, and that was the moment, the exact second, the dynamic shifted for good. Not because I exposed her, not because Mason found out, but because Claire finally realized she no longer had control of the story. And once someone like her loses control, there's nothing left for them to hold on to. She grabbed her bag and rushed toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back to me with an expression I'll never forget. Not hatred, not regret, but fear of someone who finally understands she underestimated the wrong person. When the door slammed behind her, the house exhaled with her. Mason stayed. We talked. Not about revenge, not about justice, but about the sheer weight of being lied to by someone you trusted. He apologized unnecessarily, and before he left, he said something that stuck with me. "You didn't hurt her, Daniel. You just stopped letting her hurt you." After he drove away, the house felt impossibly quiet, almost peaceful. I sat on the couch, hands clasped, letting every moment of the last month settle into place. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel bitter. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, free, not because Claire was gone, but because the version of myself who let that kind of betrayal live unchecked was gone. It was over now. Not cleanly, not beautifully, but honestly. And in the world I had been living in, honesty was the closest thing to redemption I could hope for.